Är du vampyr?
Hade du tyckt om mig ändå?
Vill du bli ihop med mig?
Let the Right One In is freaking awesome. It is one of the best vampire films I've ever seen. It does everything right. Special effects are awesome. I mean, it doesn't have these fancy CGI moments, no bat people walking around. A girl with blood smeared on her mouth is a little scarier.
You got blood on your face, a big disgrace.
The film makes excellent use of classic things like just plain cinematography and soundtrack to really make this atmosphere. The film centers on this boy named Oscar, who's bullied at school, and he dreams of taking revenge on his tormentors Columbine style.
Skrik då! Skrik då!
But he's a nice boy, he's not a psycho. The real psychos of the piece are the bullies. The child actors are amazing. The bullies seem like real bullies. Kids are so good at being evil that it is really appreciated. I really like them as these antagonists. So Oscar interacts with this new girl who moves in named Ellie, and Ellie turns out to be a vampire who feeds on people. Oscar befriends this girl, Ellie, and they start this relationship together, and that's this strange, cool thing because she's a predator, he's the prey, and they hit it off. As I was watching this movie, I kept comparing it to Twilight, but even as a Twilight fan, this is way better. I mean, Twilight is just kind of a sex fantasy. This is a serious romance about kids who are basically asexual, and so their romance is based on childhood crush kind of love instead of sexual love, and that makes it more pure, really. So Ellie helps Oscar stand up to the bullies. She encourages him to fight back, and he does. And I love the scene where he hits the bully in the ear and it's bleeding, and there's just this powerful aspect to it. The boy Oscar, he smiles and you can really understand, like, holy crap, I have power. I can affect my life. I can stand up to these evildoers and stop them from hurting me. So the film explores the idea of violence. The bullies are violent because they're malicious, and they can get away with it. Oscar desires to be malicious as a form of revenge against the bullies. And when he does use violence, it's just to stand up to them, just to stand up for his own rights. When he earns the respect of the other kids, he is okay to stop being violent. At one point, Oscar tries to use violence to save Ellie's life, and he doesn't quite get there, but Ellie kills the guy who's trying to kill her, and Oscar cannot handle that violence. So he drops his knife. It's like, I'm done. And so that kind of violence just isn't for him. But Ellie, she is very violent, but she does it only to survive. So it's very interesting. It's a very mature movie. Gender analysis is hard with this movie because Ellie is not a girl. It's revealed that she was this boy who was castrated by the vampire that turned her, and she's been living as a girl but doesn't consider herself a girl. I'm not quite sure where to go with the gender pronouns here because, as far as I can tell, Ellie's gender identity is hotly debated in IMDb forums and We the Infected forums. And as it's such a controversy, I don't really want to make any declarative statements regarding her gender until I can read the book and assess that for myself. You know, Ellie presents as female as far as I can tell, so I'm just gonna go with female pronouns here. But Ellie isn't a girl. Ellie says this a couple times. You can't exactly count her as a female character in analysis of Let the Right One In. Outside of Oscar and Ellie, there are various female adults, including the teacher, the mom, the nurse, and Virginia. Virginia is this woman that Ellie tries to eat, but Ellie doesn't finish the job. So Virginia turns into a vampire. And it gives more motivation for her boyfriend, Locke, to seek revenge on Ellie. Basically, Ellie already ate his best friend. Virginia is basically a normal adult, but when she's bitten, she suffers from the infection. She is starving. She doesn't want to drink blood. She knows that sunlight burns her. Cats attack her. And she's strapped to a hospital bed, and Locke tries to comfort her, saying he'll sell his stamp collection and they'll buy a cottage in the woods and it'll be wonderful. But Virginia knows it can't be like that, and she commits suicide by having the doctor open the blinds. And but that's really all there is to the character. Locke has more motivation to hunt down Ellie, and he knows she's a vampire now. The other women are just very basic characters. They're a little attentive to the needs of children, but not really major characters. And the mom kind of ignores Oscar, and so does the teacher. The teacher has too much on her plate, and she can't protect Oscar from the bullies. When Oscar attacks one of the bullies, the teacher runs to the bully's aid. So the women don't really do very much, but none of the adults do. You know, the movie is really just a boy and his vampire. So any analysis of the movie really has to center on those two. And Ellie, though not a girl, is feminine. She is presented as feminine. And so analysis of Ellie's femininity is appropriate. I think Ellie as a girl is dealt with really respectfully because her femininity does not hamper her ability to fight. It's not a weakness like femininity is often considered. Also, her femininity is not used as the main form of aggression. You know, a lot of these vampires, female vampires, are problematic because they deal with this idea of how women should not behave. They're sort of evils of femininity in a patriarchal culture. So they'll be seductive, and they'll kill children, and use their sexuality as a way to lure men and then kill them. It's present in a lot of modern vampire fiction where it really shouldn't be, because that's problematic in current society. But Let the Right One In avoids this. The one problematic point is where Ellie offers to help fight the bullies, and Oscar's like, but you're a girl. And this plays into the idea about how femininity is weakness, and it's offensive for a boy to be helped by a girl. It would show his weakness, and that's fairly problematic, but that's a minor point in the narrative. And Ellie is a lot stronger than the bullies, so it is avoided. Now, the American remake, Let Me In, which I'll cover more in a later video, is a little more worthy of feminist analysis because of how gender is more of an aspect of it. There's a lot more sexuality, and the bullies, they use sexuality and gender in their aggressiveness. And when Oscar is tormented, or in the American version he's called Owen, when Owen is tormented, he's referred to as a little girl, and referred to as she being a pejorative because no boy wants to be referred to as a girl. Another thing about Let the Right One In is that the great age difference is not overlooked. Ellie is much older than she looks, and this is kind of dealt with. The actress does a great job at seeming more mature than she really is, like an adult, and some scenes seem more like an adult talking to a kid. It's twisted, but you can't really get away from that if you have a vampire character. And I like that the movie kind of touches on that aspect. It may not offer any explicit answer about whether or not this is truly problematic or not, but it touches on it. It at least acknowledges it. Whereas in Twilight, Edward, though he's over 100, really seems like a 17-year-old boy, and he might as well be one. Ellie is over 200 years old, and at one point during a mind meld scene, we see her as this old woman. So the aspect is dealt with, and that's cool. So yeah, Let the Right One In is an awesome vampire movie. I highly recommend it. If you have any interest in the vampire romance genre, if you thought Twilight had an interesting dynamic but just didn't execute it very well, I highly recommend Let the Right One In.